Have you ever felt that intense urge to run away when you're in a crowded room? That feeling of being completely overwhelmed, where the noise, the movement, and the sheer number of people just become too much? If you have, you know it's not just a simple dislike, it's a deep, visceral reaction. People who hate crowded places are often misunderstood. On the outside, it might look like they're just shy, antisocial, or maybe even a little dramatic. But inside their minds, something far more complex is happening. This feeling, this aversion to crowds, usually begins long before you even step into a packed room. It's an anticipatory dread. For some, a crowd isn't just a group of strangers. It's a battlefield of unpredictable noise, chaotic movement, and an invisible, crushing pressure. The psychology behind this reaction is fascinating, and it often goes back to the fundamental ways our brains process safety, control, and emotional regulation. To really get this, let's start with a story. Imagine Emily, a high school student. She absolutely dreaded school assemblies. It wasn't because she disliked her school or her classmates, but the moment she walked into that gym, filled with hundreds of students, her chest would tighten. Her thoughts would start racing, and she'd feel trapped in a swirling ocean of sound and motion. She couldn't explain it to anyone back then. It just felt like a personal failing. Years later, after learning about neuroscience, she finally understood. Her brain was just overly sensitive to sensory overload. Her amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, was working in overdrive. It reacted too quickly, too strongly, and too often, sending out alarm bells even when there was no real danger. The sheer volume of sensory input from the crowd was enough to trigger a full-blown threat response. Now, let's consider another story. This is Michael. Michael grew up in a chaotic home. Arguments would erupt without warning. Doors would slam for reasons he never understood. His young nervous system learned one crucial and damaging lesson: unpredictability equals danger. The world was an unsafe place where chaos could strike at any moment. Fast forward years later, Michael is standing in a crowded shopping mall during the holidays. The echoing footsteps, the dozens of conversations blending into one overwhelming wave of sound, the unpredictable movements of people all around him. In that moment, his body automatically defaults to its old programming. It reverts to survival mode. His brain isn't processing shopping, it's processing danger. This isn't a conscious choice, it's a deeply ingrained physiological response. These stories highlight a crucial point. People who hate crowded places don't necessarily hate people. In fact, many of them are deeply empathetic and caring individuals. What they hate is the sensation of losing control over their senses, their space, and most importantly, their own emotional state. They hate the feeling of their internal world being hijacked by the external chaos. Scientific research backs this up. This reaction is common among individuals with heightened sensory processing sensitivity, social anxiety, a history of trauma, or even highly analytical minds that are wired to scan their environment too deeply and too quickly. Think of it like this: their brain scanner is set to high definition all the time. While others might see a blurry background of people, their brain is trying to process every face, every conversation, every movement. It's exhausting. And for many of them, the scariest part of a crowd is the feeling that there's no way out. This triggers a primal fear. The brain's fight-or-flight system, designed to save us from lions on the savannah, goes into overdrive. This sends a storm of physical signals through the body: an elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, tunnel vision, and that dizzying sense that the world is spinning too fast. Psychologists have a term for this: perceived entrapment. It means that once the brain believes it cannot control or escape an environment, it interprets that environment as a threat, even when, objectively, nothing is wrong. The locked doors of a packed concert hall or the slow-moving line in a grocery store can feel like a trap. This is why people who dislike crowded places often find peace in very different settings. They're drawn to empty cafes, late-night walks under the stars, the quiet solitude of nature, or small intimate gatherings with a few close friends. These environments give their minds the space to breathe, to process, and to think clearly without being bombarded. They can lower their defenses and just be. It's not about weakness, it's about neurological wiring. It's about creating an environment that matches their internal needs. And here's the most interesting part. Studies show that the very same traits that make crowds overwhelming often come with incredible strengths. People who dislike crowded places often have higher levels of empathy. Because they feel things so intensely themselves, they are often better at understanding and sharing the feelings of others. They tend to have higher sensitivity, which can translate into a strong appreciation for art, music, and nature. Many are incredibly creative, with rich inner worlds, and they often possess a deep emotional awareness. The same brain that reacts intensely to a crowd is the same brain that feels joy more profoundly, perceives beauty more deeply, and connects with others on a more meaningful level. At its very root, this whole experience is a conversation between the brain and the environment. And some brains simply speak more loudly, more carefully, and more protectively than others. Their internal monologue is constantly assessing, analyzing, and trying to keep them safe. Understanding this can completely transform the way we see these individuals, and maybe even the way you see yourself. So, if you're someone who avoids crowds, know that you're not broken or weird. You're not running away from life. You are intelligently and instinctively protecting the inner world that keeps you balanced, grounded, and fully alive. You are honoring your own unique neurological landscape. And for those who don't experience this, the next time you see a friend turn down an invitation to a big party or leave a bustling event early, try to remember Emily and Michael. It's not about you. It's about them finding their own space to breathe in a world that can sometimes feel way too loud. It's about self-preservation, and that's a strength, not a weakness. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that helps us understand ourselves and each other a little better. See you in the next one.